Hallelujah. 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 God is indeed an amazing God. He is a good God. Anybody can testify of the goodness of God? Come, let's try that again. Is there anyone here that can testify of the goodness of God? Just the mere fact that we are alive and well this morning, that is God's goodness and His mercy being shown towards us. And today is Sports Sunday. We know that for our church it is Family Sunday. And so the topic that I'm going to have a conversation, and notice I choose my words carefully. We're going to have a conversation today. And conversation means what? Talking to each other. So I talk with you, you talk back with me, and we together learn and remind ourselves about some things. So today we're going to be having a conversation about love and the family. And you know the awesome thing about God is that He doesn't ask us to do anything that He Himself has not modeled. He never asks us to do anything that He has not provided the blueprint for. And so throughout the Bible, and especially in Ephesians 5 that was just read, we realize that Christ gives us the blueprint. And we will be looking at husbands, wives, children, and then we're going to bring it all together. And so we're going to start with the head of the household. Now the head of the household is who? The man, the husband. He is the head of the household. Just as Christ is the head of the church, He is the one that is in charge of the family, in charge of the household. And so everybody knows, you know, the scripture that says, husbands, you're to love your wife like Christ loved the church. But what does that mean in practical terms? Because it's very easy to get caught up in the biblical and, you know, Christ laid down His life for the church and, you know, all that great stuff. I would think of it, yeah, man, that's something that Jesus does. But what does it look like when a husband loves his wife the way Christ loves the church? And so the first thing that we're going to discuss is that a husband's love towards his wife is a sanctifying love. And what do we think that means? Let's draw back to the analogy of Jesus. We say that we are saved and we are sanctified and we're on our way to heaven. What does it mean to be sanctified? Anybody? Alright, so somebody say set apart, holy, blameless. Alright, so those are all the wonderful biblical parts of it. So let's look at the practical. What do you think it would mean when it says a husband has a sanctifying love for his wife?
Respect her. Respect his wife.
Okay. Anybody else? Alright, when everybody talk now, we can't go here. So yes, Daniel.
His love sets her apart from the other.
His love sets her apart, or I'll help, the way he loves her sets her apart from everybody else. What else? The way he adores her makes her feel different from every other female that he might have relationship with. So the way he loves his wife is not the same way he loves his sister or the same way he loves his mother. He said you look like you wanted to say something.
Pure, truthful.
It's pure and it's true. So the kind of love that he has towards her is pure and true. Okay.
He's a one-man woman.
He's a one-man kind of woman. Yes, yes. Other way, right? So a one-woman kind of man, right? Okay. So a sanctifying love is one where a husband continuously covers his wife in prayer. Husbands, how many of us are praying for our wives? So when we wake up in the morning in the favor of the Lord, in the grace of the Lord. So if you notice that your wife not fostering the kind of relationship that she needs to have with the Lord, it is your responsibility to say, what's happening? And notice one time you used to wake up and do your morning prayers, but you're not really getting up to do that anymore. What's going on? Or you offer, come let us pray together. Come let us have devotion together. So husbands, we ought to have a sanctifying love towards our wives. Husbands, you ought to have a sacrificial love towards your wife. And we all know what sacrifice means. Going out of the way, giving up something that you would have wanted or liked in order to be or provide something for someone else. So it's putting the needs of your wife sometimes above your very own. And these are simple things that we can do, putting the needs of your wife above your own. So if one day you go home and she said, boy, I don't feel like cooking today, it shouldn't be a big deal. Because we know we have some of us men, well, some men who are very traditional. I must have a home cooked meal every day when I come home. And never mind your wife might be having cramps or something else is happening with her and she just physically cannot undertake cooking this evening. But we must have a warm meal on the table when I get home. And so it causes what? Argument and strife and overcooked meal. Something that you can do yourself, or it could be a day when is a sausage sandwich, some cornflakes, something that probably in the fridge that you can just go heat up, put it back on the stove and warm it up, and you would have, in that case, what? Put your wife's needs above your own. Sometimes it might be a little bit more serious, It might be a money thing. So you wanted to purchase, let's say you want to change your car, you want to purchase something and you had your mind set on it for a while. And here comes an instance or an incident where the money that you had set aside to do this thing that you're dreaming of from when a situation has arisen in the family with your wife and your wife is in need of something. And rather than say, okay, I had this and it was set aside for a particular thing, but I see the need that we have as a family. I see the need that you have as my wife, and so let's use the money to do this, even though we had thought that we were going to use it to do something else. So it's putting the needs of your wife above your own. Is that the way a husband loves his wife like Christ loved the church, is that it's supposed to be what is called a serving love. So the love that Christ had towards us was servanthood. Even though he was God, he was king, he took on the appearance of a servant. He took on the role of a servant and he served people. He healed the sick, he raised the dead, he provided food when he saw that the crowd was hungry. He had a heart of compassion towards people and he served. And it's the same way that he says, if you're going to love your wife like I love the church, then you have to have a serving love towards your wife. Amen. So what does serving love looks like? What does serving love looks like? You cannot say serving. That's not fair. Giving up oneself, doing some of the household work, yes. Anybody else? That is so true. So anything that is an act of service, identifying things that are needed without the wife even having to come to you to say, boy, I need some help with this, because you are attentive and because you are paying attention to your wife and you are in tune with her needs. You can know what she needs even before she opens her mouth and asks for it. So it's a love that is never too busy. So some of us men, or some of you men, yes, some of you men, when Saturday morning come and the sport is on the TV, forget about it. It is not the time to talk to me. Look here, it is not the time to talk to me. It is not the time to ask me for anything. It is not the time to even be in my space, because it's me, the TV, and the Never mind if it is something that, it needs attention right now. Just a love that's never too busy to listen. It's not too busy checking your phone. Thank you so much. It's not too busy checking your phone. And I'll share something that I experienced. There was one night when my home and I went out on a date. And we went to this restaurant. And there's a couple that was sitting away from us. And you could tell that they were married because the lady had on her ring and the man had on his ring. And they came together and everything, right? And I remember sitting and looking at them. For the whole time they were there, they never exchanged a word with each other. The man was down in his phone, and she was down in her phone. They don't look at each other. They don't talk to each other. They don't touch each other. Nothing. The only time they kind of put the phone aside was when the food came. Wow. When the food came, they eat in one hand and the other hand have the phone still going. Not a conversation, not anything, no interaction whatsoever. And I'm saying to myself, then what is the point? No food was at home, I guess. Maybe there was no food at home. But what's the point of you coming out together as husband and wife to enjoy a meal together when you're not going to exchange a word? Then linked in their phones the whole time. And it's simple things like that. The game that you play on your phone, the social media. So for those, the younger men who are into the technology, sometimes you can get so caught up in your technology that you begin to neglect the presence of your wife. I want you trying to give them little hints and whatever. You are she'll talk to you and you're in the phone and she get a little one-word answer, the yes or the and you start getting grunts because you are not physically there paying attention to what it is that she's saying. Instead, a serving love is one that is present. So when you are physically at home, you are at home. When you're in the same space, you are in the same space. I recognize that you are here. I am paying attention to you. I am looking at you. When you're talking to me, I am looking at you to allow you to feel that I am listening. Anybody ever talking to someone and they're looking all over the place? Don't. It makes you feel like they're not acknowledging your presence. It's like they're talking to the ear and they're just in the physical space. So it is ensuring that you're present, you show care, you're attentive, you're sympathetic to what is happening. And then in Ephesians 5 verse 31, it talks about a faithful love. So it says, therefore a man shall leave his mother and father and hold fast to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. Does it mean that we're morphing together into one body? Into one, thank you very much, Mario. Does it mean that we're morphing together into one individual? No, but our lives are coming together. Our thoughts are coming together. Our resources are coming together. We have become one flesh. And this oneness equals a lifetime of commitment and faithfulness. You are the one that I have chosen, and that is it. So there will be no competition with anyone else or anything else. It is you and just you. So husband is letting your wives know and feel that it is you. You are the woman of my dreams. You are the woman that I chose to marry. And so nothing else can take your place. There's nothing better than a wife that feels secure. No wife? Wife, talk to me. Security is one of the greatest things to us. When we feel that we don't have nothing to worry about, when we feel that there is no competition, so we're not competing with no other woman or the phone or the TV or anything else. We're not competing for your attention. That makes a happy wife. And you know what I say? Happy wife, happy? Happy life, man. If you have a happy wife, happy life. And yes, happy home. But you know when your wife is unhappy, your life can be very miserable. Don't worry, we'll soon get to the wives. I'm not going to jump ahead. A love from a husband for his wife, the way Christ loved the church, is an understanding love. One of the greatest things that a woman needs, and I know we're talking about husband and wife, but we have a lot of mature young ladies here who are aspiring to be married. So please take this opportunity to And you know, so you just stay clear of those kind of things. Know the things that she likes, the things that she dislikes. What makes her happy? What makes her sad? Knowing your wife. And the only way you can know somebody's what? Spending quality time with that person. Paying attention to that person. So you know your wife to the point where when her time of the month is coming, you know. You should know. Because you begin to know her signs. You know if some women get irritable. So every little thing them get antsy and start quarreling and whatever, you can deal with her because you know, okay, Nelsa is getting irritable, so you know, perhaps she's getting close to her period. Or, you know, some women, they get very tired and they don't have the amount of energy to go and to do, and so you know this. And so you treat with your wife accordingly because you know her. You know her ins and outs. Right? Yes, 1 Peter 3. And I should mention there are a couple of scriptures. So of course there's Ephesians 5:21 to 33, which we read earlier. There's also 1 Peter 3, 1 to 7, which if you're ever unclear as a husband or a wife what you need to do, those two scriptures will give you the blueprint that God has given us for how it is that we ought to love each other. A husband's love is a caring love. So Paul uses the words nourish and cherish. What does it mean to nourish? Anybody, what does it mean to nourish? So we eat food to nourish our bodies. What does it mean to nourish? To feed, to vitalize, right? What else? Anybody else? To take care of? Yes, Mario? To allow, give him a hand, to allow growth. Yes, so the husband's love towards his wife should facilitate her growth. It should nourish her. It should strengthen her. It should enrich her. The love that he has towards her should build her up, make her stronger. That's the love that a husband ought to have towards his wife. You know, we have this saying that it's not sometimes so much what you say, but it's how you say it. So grunting to your wife, me love you, just go over her head. But if you take her by the hand and look her in her eyes and say, wife, I love you. It's same word, two different ways that it is received by your wife. The actions with which you do things, it speaks sometimes louder than the very words that we speak. So the love, a caring love a love that nourishes and cherishes is demonstrative. So you demonstrate the way that you love your wife. The love that a husband has for his wife is consistent and enduring. Consistency. So it is not when all is going well and we don't have any challenges right now and it is all rosy. So you know, the affection will be flowing, the words of affirmation will be flowing because things are good or my needs are being met. But the minute the wife ceases to cook the dinner on time, press the clothes you want the way you want it to press, keep the house tidy, don't spend too much money when you go to the grocery. The minute those things begin to happen, then problem. And the consistency with which you would demonstrate your love to your wife begins to wane. Love between a husband and wife is not conditional, it is unconditional love. So it's not when things are going well only that we should be demonstrating the love. Because the vows that we say, you know, regardless of how many people, they personalize their own vows. But the essence of the vows is that it's for better or worse. It didn't say for better, then best. So when things are good, and they get better and they get best, yeah man, everything great. But once the worst days come, then things begin to fall apart. It is during the days of the worst that real love should come to the fore. That is when consistent love should come out. And let me tell you, there is not look at it beyond the light. So even though right now I am not happy, even though in this moment, you know, things between us are a little shaky, but guess what? I love you. And because of that love, you dig deep. You look beyond faults. You forgive. You forget things that might cause hurt and discomfort. And you know that what? Love, the Bible says, covers a multitude of sins. And so that is when you draw on love. Sometimes you cannot depend on the way you feel because feelings lie. And they're very fickle. So anything can cause your feelings to change. But it's a good thing that I don't feel that I love you. I know that I love you. And so that is what it requires from a husband. So even those times when you feel you know into your wife right now, you know that this is the person I have chosen. It is a decision that I made. I stood before God, family, and friends, and I formed a covenant with this woman that I am going to love her till death do us part. And so you stick it out and you work it out.
Amen.
The love that a husband has towards his wife is what we call a leading love. A leading love. A love that provides leadership for his household, for his wife. And I know this one is one that is very touchy. Yes, ma'am. There's some of us as wives who we wear the pants. Yes, ma'am. Talk truth. Talk truth. Of course. There's some of us wives who we believe we know what the Bible says that the man is the head of the household. But we are of another persuasion where we are the ones who want to run the show. We are the ones who want to make the decisions. We are the ones who want to tell and dictate our husbands what should and should not be done. But that is contrary to what the Word of God says. And lots of times that is why we get into issues in our marriages, because we're acquiring roles that do not belong to us. And let me tell you something about a husband. The home and I have been married for 10 years, so I think I have little experience now. Our husbands have something that is called an ego. Our men have them. And as a wife, it is your responsibility to guard it, to protect it. It's like we must cherish and nurture we must cherish and nurture his ego. And I'm not talking about the ego that wants to show off and I'm the big man around here and it's what I say that goes. That's not it. It is making your husband feel that he is in charge. Let him feel comfortable and not second guess. So if he says we're going to do Y, you're going to ask him 100 million questions. Why did you decide to make that decision? Or think that in every decision that he makes, he needs to consult with you. It is not always so. There are some decisions that he will rightfully make on his own, and he is so led to do. Sometimes too, they will make decisions that we really don't like, but guess what? They will bite your tongue and support him because it's a decision that he made. So we have to ensure that our husbands feel safe. So what does it mean? So as a husband leading your house, husbands, you're not to lord it over your wife. So don't call on your wife and tell her, I am in charge and what I say goes. That's wrong. That is not love. It's not a me and your get. That's controlling. Let me see your phone. Who you are talking to? What are you doing? No. Where's the trust? Where's the trust? Right? So, lead your wife as Christ leads the church. And the last one for the husbands. Right, so that was the last one. So the love that husband has for his wife is a leading love. And you're leading her from a place of love, from a place of care. Alright, so let's run over to the wives now. supposed to love our husband. That's the very first one on the top of the list. The way we love our husbands as Christ loved the church is that we are to have a respectful, submissive love for our husband. And by submissive, I don't mean you become a footstool or one mat when you can walk over and treat any old how you feel like and talk to you anywhere, and when things get rough, box and pump and kick because that can own you. No. That is not love. That is not love. But what we are called to do, and in Ephesians 5:33 it says, let each one of you love his wife as himself, and let the wife see that she respects her husband. So what does that look like? Let's say you're in a relationship where you make more money than your husband. And that's true in a lot of instances. Lots of us who have husbands who are skilled men and stuff, we make more money than them if we have a different type of job. Respecting your husband means you're pooling the money. So it's not fear money, a few money, and few money, and few money. Come on, wives, we talk about it all the while. Fear money, so the husband money, a few money, but my money and my money. No. Whatever, I will say one more time. One more time. So it's not feeding money, a few money, but my money and my money. No. It is our money. So we pool our resources together. And it don't mean that you must have one bank account that you put everything into. In our case, we each have our separate accounts, but we have access to both the accounts. So if I need money and there's no money in my account, I can get his bank card, I know the PIN, I can go and I can get the money that I want. He can transfer money out of my account into his and vice versa. Respecting your husband. It also means, so when you go out now and bills must pay, make your husband pick up himself now, you slip out your money long time ready to go pay the bill. No man, the man is the man of the what? Those little things matter. And you might say, oh, those things are so insignificant. No, they are not. How you think him feel when he's sitting in a big old crowded restaurant and when the waitress up with the bill is you that take out money paying? He's the man. Allow him to pay. The money that's in his account, give him. Slide into your backyard under the napkin. And allow him to pay the bill. Nurturing your husband's ego. When your husband walk out on the road, nobody look a point finger upon him because you don't run around telling everybody on the business. And every time there's a problem, everybody in the community knows that you and Tom is having a problem. So when poor Tom going about in business, man cannot point finger upon him and a laugh after him and make him feel small. Remember that ego thing? And the minute your husband's ego begins to feel diminished is the minute his love towards you begins to dry up. So the smaller his ego gets, is the lesser his love towards you gets as well. So if we know what is good for us, water it, rub it down, nourish it, cherish it, so that it can thrive and his love towards us will continue to thrive. Amen? So wives, we have to respect our husbands. If you're out in the public and there's a disagreement, you don't have to deal with it right there, so just say, okay babe, no problem. Bite your tongue, you don't have to say a word. You don't have to be adamant. No, I disagree. That's not what I think. When you go home, you can deal with that. There's so many little things. And the big things, sometimes it's so many little things that cause contention. So we have to be respectful and submissive to our husbands. If our husband makes a decision, even if you do not agree, you find a way to work with it. And I know that there are instances where, in the grand scheme of things, it is the wife who handles like finances and those kind of things. So it might give the impression that you are really in charge because you have the brain to deal with the money and whatever. Your husband not so much. He'll work the money and bring it come and say, alright, do what you need to do. But even in you managing the money that the man makes, you ought to ensure you do it in such a way that he continues to feel that he is loved and cherished for providing for you. The other thing is that a wife that fulfill her marital duties. Must. You see how we talk about the husband not loving you when he feel like, or when his needs are being met, or he feels comfortable. So there are days when you will feel uncomfortable, but you ought, regardless of how you feel sometimes, to carry out your marital duties. So what does marital duties mean? You cannot tell the man every day that you're unwell, or you have a headache, and so, there's no sex tonight. Because so tonight, my head hurts, then my belly hurts, then my back, then it's always something else. Whilst it is that making love is not the end and be all of a marriage, you best know it's very important. You best know that it is very important. It is one of those things that unifies you, that oneness, sharing of each other's bodies brings and fuses you together. Right? And so, carry through your duties. So when you vent with him, and he says, I need a little loving, even if you're not in the mood, YouTube is a great thing. Find some music. That's the great thing about us as women, we respond to what we hear and what we feel. So even if you're not in the mood to make love, sometimes just by putting on the right kind of song, feeling the touch, then all of those feelings of not wanting to will disappear, and you will begin to want to, have relationship with your husband. And it's very, ladies, it's important. It is important, because if their desires are not being met internally, then the temptation for them to be met externally is very strong. And when I'm talking to especially young unmarried women, I always have this thing that I tell them, girl, they're road. Yeah man, girl, they're road. And you have women who love married men because they don't come with any responsibilities. So, I love you and send you back home to your wife. And that's what they want. So if you are not carrying through your responsibilities, the next time you feel like you don't want to remember me, tell you, say, girl, they're road. Yes, like you don't want her to get into your space, right? So do what you must to keep her out of road and keep your husband at home. Husbands, it is not an excuse, by the way. It is not an excuse to go out and seek sexual fulfillment elsewhere. A woman that loves her husband loves him by not being a nag or getting into petty fights. In Proverbs 25:24 it says, it's better to live in a corner on a housetop than in a house shared with a quarrelsome wife. What that means? You don't need to quarrel over everything. You don't have to make an issue out of every little thing. If the man said done, done. You don't have to keep belaboring the point until he comes to accept what you have said to be right. Sometimes we're right, and then say we don't right. Just hold on to it. Just hold it up. Fine. Let him win. We don't have to feel like we have to win every argument, every quarrel, and what we say must go. No. It is annoying. The last thing that a man wants is all the time you're quarreling, you're miserable, you're upset. What does that say to him? That he's not able to make you happy. It's like a man that won't stop ball. Or a leaking house. Somebody say a leaking house, and no matter what you do, stop leak. Come on, ladies. Pick your battles. Not every battle needs to be fought. Not every little thing needs to be turned into an argument. Sometimes that's into something and we just fly off for no reason at all. Sometimes after the fact that we look back, we're like, oh, what were we making a fuss about in the first place? Right? So don't nag your husband And sometimes we don't really have to deal with them. But the fact of the matter is, we are the nurturers in the relationship. So yes, there are some things that we feel like, why is me always afraid of this? Or anytime it comes to these kind of issues, is me must take care of it, because that's your role. That is your role. And so you have to be gracious in accepting your role and ensuring that you do what is required of you. True, you didn't want married. A wife loves her husband with a compassionate love. What does it mean to be compassionate? What does it mean to have compassion on somebody? To show mercy. In spite of. I like that one. To show love in spite of. So compassion is a deep kind of emotion that you have towards people. It is, in fact, looking beyond and in spite of, and really wanting to have, really wanting to ensure that this person is happy. So when your husband is unhappy, you genuinely become unhappy because you care. If he's hurting, you hurt. If he's angry, if something angers him, it angers you as well because you care so deeply about your husband. It's a kind of love that you want to fix things for him. So when things are not going well and you realize that something is really getting at your husband, it's like you can't stop, you can't sleep, you can't eat until you do what you can to help him to feel better, to fix what is broken so that he will be okay again. And you know the funny thing? We feel this kind of love towards our children more than we feel it towards our spouse. We do. We do. So we would move heaven and earth for our children, but we don't know how to move heaven and earth for our spouse. It's true. And that is what compassionate love calls for. Do everything that you possibly can to ensure that your husband is okay, that he is well. And similar to what the love husbands had to have for us, it's an unconditional love. So it don't matter. It doesn't matter. Sometimes horrible things might happen. Sometimes, God forbid, your husband might step out of the marriage. He might even have a child with another woman. But if this is something that you can live through and you're encouraged to forgive, then sometimes it has to work. You have to be willing to set aside your own pride. Because yes, you're going to feel hurt. And no, and next woman share your husband in that kind of way. So the things that were supposed to be for you alone, somebody else out there experiences, and it's rough. But are we willing to look beyond the hurt and look beyond the pain and make our marriages work? And I've seen those examples where husbands have stepped outside of their marriages. They've had children, and they're still married to their wife now. The outside children are in the family, and they're one big happy family. It is possible. It is possible. So don't just write it off. We know it's rough. We know it's rough, but forgiveness. And it will take time and it will take work. Them kind of things that don't happen overnight. It's counseling, fasting, prayer, and those kind of things to bring us back. I'm not saying it will happen at all times, but that is what the Bible tells us to do. We ought to seek to forgive. Right? And finally, a wife loves her husband in such a way that she helps her husband to become who he needs to be. Sometimes we need to give our husbands a push. Sometimes you have to encourage them. On their own, they might not get up and go. But you're not going to say, look how I say yes and I'm nothing. You can't learn my skill. You can't do this. No. If you say that to your husband, you should have find it and come and done with you. But you have to find loving ways to communicate with your husband. Babe, I've noticed that you're very good at fixing things. Like any little thing broken around the house, you always find a way to fix it so it starts work again. You ever consider maybe, get a a little certificate and an electrical work or something like that. Can you really do that, you know? Yes, and you always have fixed things to people for free. Maybe this is a way that we can start early to listen. Find creative ways to get your husbands to do the things that you see that they're good at. Encourage them. When they do good things, praise them about it so that they will feel good within themselves. And finally, we're heading down to the children. It's Family Sunday, so there's no speaking without addressing the children. So, I'm going to start with the parents first, and how as parents we ought to love our children. So how do we love our children with the love that God requires? We love them by training them, directing them in the right and proper way. We love them by being an example. It is not enough to tell your child, Leah, you must not steal. But if Leah sees me going to the supermarket and taking things off the shelf and put into my purse, if Leah sees me, she know money now, and quick on the math. If Leah sees me get change and see that I was really supposed to get $400, but it's $500 I get, and I take that $500 and I don't say to the cashier, ma'am, I think you made a mistake. My change was $400 and you actually gave me $5. Because you give me $100, but then sometimes the money them close together, so you don't even realize. Best believe, they're going to call you out. And they're going to say, what? You've got more money than you were supposed to get and you never give it back. So how you tell me, say, I must be honest. And I mustn't steal. Nowadays, children, it is not do as I say, as I do. They're watching us as parents to mirror the behavior that we are requiring of them. So if we tell them that they ought to be peaceful and not to be quick to get into fights, but every minute you and your husband at each other, it don't matter what you say to them, it's what they see that they're going to mirror. So we have to be an example. There's no point in telling them every night, say a prayer before you go to your bed, but you just shut up your bed and gone. They don't see you saying your prayers. You don't come together as a family for prayer. You can't tell them to do something that you yourself is not doing. If we love our children, we ought to teach them how to pray. So don't just depend on school to teach them our Father. Teach your children how to pray. Teach them how to have a conversation with God. Because oftentimes they look at prayer as this big, odious thing that is hanging over them, and why it takes so long. Teach them, no man, prayer is as simple as, dear Lord, thank you for waking me up this morning. Please protect me as I go to school. That's it. Teach your children how to pray. The other thing is that we have to teach our children how to be humble. We have to teach our children how to be humble. Have you ever gone out and seen children? I've gone to, because they're just swimming, so we've gone to swim meets and see 8-year-olds in the pool. When they win, they will beat their chests and they will carry on and they're going 8 years old. Where's the humility? And then pointing on the other children and get 8-year-old and to say, we're better than you. And me win and you lose. Teach your children to be humble. And don't get it twisted, I'm not saying they must have self-confidence, but self-confidence is not arrogance. Teach your children to be humble. There's a saying, humble calf suck the most milk. Teach your children to be humble. The more humble they are, the more doors will be open for them. Nobody like arrogant people. We ought to commit their lives to God. And by this I mean, so yes, we say, God, take care of our children, but at the same time, you have planned them life. You will make every decision the way you feel it needs to be made, but you have not really given your children to God to say, God, do with Leah as you will. Children, how do you think you show love for your parents? This is where you talk to me now. So children, Amy, come I'm coming, Mario.
I can, I do stuff around the house, I help out.
Alright, so doing stuff around the house, helping out. Yes, Mario? Obeying what? Listen, that's number 1 on my list. That children are to be obedient. You show your love to your parents by listening and doing what it is that they ask you. Yes, pretty girl? Yeah. By showing respect. So be respectful to your parents. So if you want something and they say you can't have it, no matter turn them off and stamp and walk out and catch feelings and have attitude and don't look at me like it is not happening, because them nowadays people here is different generation. Things that you and I wouldn't dare do, they do it without thought. So don't stamp and walk out and carry on because your parents didn't allow you. Yes? Do not steal from your parents. So don't see mommy and daddy put down their money and because you want to buy sweetie, you take it up and go buy sweetie and bag juice, right? Right. So you love your parents. You respect them. So these are your parents. And listen, just like adults, know that your children will get upset. They have feelings too. Their feelings will become hurt and they will get angry. And in the midst of their anger, they will say things. And sometimes you look at them and say, is what really just happening here, so? Right? And it is not that they are, rude and out of order. It is just sometimes they don't know how to express or control the anger that they have. But in that moment, you take the opportunity to correct them with love. Don't forget the love part when you're doing the correction. Always correct with love. Children, you love your parents by acknowledging the sacrifices that your parents have made for you. There's some of us as children, we want everything. We look at our friends and we see the bag that them carrying, we see the shoes that them wearing, them have the hottest cell phone, them have all kind of material things, and we equate the abundance of material things with love. Love is not an abundance of things. Because I will tell you, there are a lot of those children, your classmates, your friends that you see, with all kinds of wonderful gadgets and things, and their parents are never around. They're too busy making the money to actually spend any time with their children. Or they come and they look as if they're happy, but their parents at home murdering them with liquor. Or they're being abused. And we know a different way that children can be abused. So acknowledge the sacrifices that your parents make for you. And listen, again, we're being real. We might not have, based on the demographic era that we're in, is not a place that is overflowing with money. And so yes, there are times when you will genuinely want things and your parents genuinely cannot afford to give it to you. When you become angry and you cuss them and you start behaving badly, you break your parents' heart because they're doing the very best that they can do. And some of you are old enough to understand that when your parents say no, it's because they really and truly don't have it. It's not because they're wicked and bad and just don't want to give it to you. They genuinely cannot afford to give you certain things. Love your parents. Children, you ought to show gratitude. When was the last time one of you looked at your parents and said, Mommy, thank you. Daddy, thank you. Thank you for the sacrifices that you have made. Thank you for providing a meal for me to eat. Thank you for working the extra hours so that I can get the lunch money to go to school. Thank you for doing all that you do so that I can continue to learn and grow and develop. You'd be surprised how far one little thank you can go. So we must show gratitude. And so now, one last thing. Children, do not pit against each other. Yes, ma'am. So, me ask mommy, and if mommy said no, Mary will go to daddy. Leah did it to me on, I think it was Thursday. Yes, it rained, and she wanted to go outside and ride a bicycle. And of course, we were at home, and she asked me, I said, no, Leah, you cannot go. And she said to me, well, I'll just ask daddy when he comes home from work. Yes, ma'am, same shake head and attitude and all. And I said, okay, no problem. But I bet you, when daddy comes and he asks me, we'll tell you no. Because what? As parents, we worked it out. So if you were like my father now, when you go to my father to ask him anything, he say, what your mother say? Or his answer is, whatever your mother said. So don't make a habit of pitting your parents against each other because mommy, you know, so mommy gonna say no, so you ask daddy instead. When you know your mother already says this is something that she does not want you to do. By doing that, you're actually causing strife in your own family. You cause mommy and daddy now to have an argument when it was not necessary. So don't pit your parents against each other. Yes, ma'am. Don't do it. Because when the argument and stuff start, you only see one feel bad and sometimes there's spillovers. So because mommy and daddy get in an argument, you don't get too slap or nothing nobody cook that night because everybody vexed, everybody go to bed with ear pie. So there are consequences for you too when you pit your parents against each other. And to wrap everything up, we have a common enemy. So when things happen, and they will, let us not choose to go to battle against each other. So something happened, and it cut off, and me and husband are going to cuss it out now. We are going to fight it out now. We are going to box and thump and kick it out now. And don't look at me because we know we're in church. We have some husbands or some wives who are trained in physical blows. Right? Your husband is not your enemy. Your wife is not your enemy. Children, your parents are not your enemy. Your enemy is the devil. He hates marriages. He despises families. He don't want them thrive. None at all. If it was up to him, no marriage wouldn't there and no family wouldn't keep. So when these situations present themselves, I'm encouraging us to stop and say, you know what? I know it's not you. This is the enemy trying to run in and cause some problems. So go to battle against the common enemy, which is the devil. And in so doing, husbands, you will love your wives like Christ loved the church. Wives, you will honor and respect your parents. And children, you likewise will obey and honor your parents. And children, this is a commandment that comes with a promise. When you love, cherish, honor, obey your parents, the Bible promises you that your days will be long on the earth. God bless you.